There is a solution for that is sponsored by VARC Solutions. VARC Solutions helps small businesses succeed by delivering expert QuickBooks bookkeeping, consulting, quick-based development, and integrated solutions. If you own a small to medium-sized business that uses QuickBooks or QuickBase, the experts at VARC Solutions can help. In business since 1999, with people who care and the knowledge and experience to solve your toughest problems. Visit varcsolutions.com for all your QuickBooks needs. Welcome back to another edition of There's a Solution for That, where we help small businesses succeed by discussing challenging business problems and best-in-class solutions. All right, welcome everybody to today's VARC Solutions Lunch and eLearn. We've got a great topic for you today. We're going to be talking about, should I use QuickBooks Online or should I use QuickBooks Desktop? We're going to be covering some really good topics today, specifically, and I'm going to share my screen so you can kind of see all the slides, but I just wanted to get on camera first just to say hi. My name is Brad White. I'm the CEO of VARC Solutions, and we've got a great team here, of course, to support you. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And let me go through the agenda and what we're going to be covering today. All right, you should be able to see my screen now. And what we're going to be covering today is we're going to go through an overview of the QuickBooks offerings and the status of QuickBooks Desktop. In other words, we're going to talk about QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online, Intuit Enterprise Suite. We're going to talk about some considerations if you've thought about or currently thinking about migrating off of either QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online to something else. Kind of give you some of the, since we do those migrations a lot, we've got a lot of good experience and sort of words of wisdom to consider before doing that type of migration. And it's and if it's something you want our help with too, we can do that. All right, so first off, as I mentioned before hitting the record button, we do record these. We will share the slides. We will share the recordings. So be looking forward to that. And I think that's it. Oh, but yes, if you have any questions during the lunch and learn, there's a question panel. There's also a chat panel. Anytime you've got a question, if anything occurs to you like, oh gosh, I wish I knew more about that, go ahead and put it in the question panel and we'll either answer it in that question panel or out loud for the rest of the group if it applies. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I want to open up a poll just to kind of get your feedback and kind of get a little interaction going here. So let me load the first poll. And it basically is asking, what's your current situation? Go ahead and take a few seconds here to answer. And by the way, this is multiple choice, multi-answer. So if more than one of these applies to you, you can pick more than one thing. And so we're trying to see, first off, are you happy with QuickBooks Desktop? Are you happy with QuickBooks Online? Are you frustrated with QuickBooks Desktop or Online? Are you curious about Intuit Enterprise Suite? And by the way, that's assuming you've ever heard of Intuit Enterprise Suite and what it is, but we'll mention that a little bit today. And if you're considering something else, we'd obviously love to know that as well. I'm going to give you another 20-30 seconds here and make sure that everybody has a chance to answer the question. And then we'll get rolling. Looks like almost everybody has had a chance to answer the questions, so fantastic. All right, and by the way, I'm going to share the answers with everybody because it's always kind of fun to see what the results show. So I'm going to share that on screen. You should see a little pop-up on your window now that shows you the result. 58% of you are using QuickBooks Desktop and are happy. 12% of you are also happy with QuickBooks Online. And interestingly enough, even though there's a lot of people that are happy with Desktop, there's a lot that are frustrated with QuickBooks Desktop. 8% frustrated with QuickBooks Online, 31% curious about Intuit Enterprise Suite, and then 12% of you are thinking about something else and would love to talk. So perfect. Thank you so much for participating in that. That really does give me an idea. So sounds like a good number of you are using Desktop. Some of you are using QuickBooks Online, and perfect. We're going to go from there. Okay, so let's talk about the most frequently asked question I get, and that is QuickBooks Desktop dead? And the short answer is no, but I like to say it's nearing retirement. So let me explain what that means in a nutshell. When it comes to QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Desktop has been around for, gosh, over 25 years. Historically, there's been 3 levels or tiers, and that has been QuickBooks Pro, QuickBooks Premier, and QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise. QuickBooks Pro and Premier are effectively dead in that QuickBooks Intuit is no longer selling them. Like, you can't go online, you can't even go through us and get QuickBooks Pro or Premier. So the fact that Intuit is no longer selling those SKUs gives you an idea that those are effectively dead. Now, there are still plenty of people out there on QuickBooks Pro and Premier. The Plus versions, which is a subscription service. And then if you have, I guess, version 2021 and older, that's sort of like the last standalone non-subscription version. And there are some folks that are out there that are still using those. QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise, however, is still being sold by Intuit. You can get that through us as a top tier reseller of QuickBooks in the country. And QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop is still very, very alive and kicking. Okay. Now, when I talk a little bit more about the details of desktop versus online, I'm going to share a few more little tidbits. But if you're on Pro Premier and you want to stay on desktop, QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise might be the next step for you if you want to keep using it. If you're already on QuickBooks Desktop, there are no signs from Intuit that it is pending being turned off or no longer being sold. And transparently, we are a partner with Intuit. They have not communicated to us one way or the other that it's going to be discontinued in anytime in the near future. Certainly may, but as of the recording of today, it is still alive and cooking. We can still sell it. We can still get people set up on it and all that kind of good stuff. Okay. All right. So over the next couple of slides, I want to very, very quickly go through the current Intuit QuickBooks ecosystem to let you know what is available. And regardless of where you're at right now, what would be a potential next step if you decided at some point that you wanted to move off of desktop, or, what are the options for you? If you're frustrated with either desktop or QuickBooks Online, what would be an alternative to consider? That's kind of what I want to cover over the next couple of slides. So first off, let's talk about QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop. It is intended for small to medium-sized companies. I'm calling that SMB and lower mid-market. Okay, lower mid-market meaning you're making anywhere between 1 million and say maybe $5 to $10 million in annual revenue. Okay, still very, very capable, can handle a lot of good stuff for you. QuickBooks Pro and Premier, I mentioned, no longer sellable. QuickBooks Enterprise is the last desktop edition to be sold. But here's the cool part. Even QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop is still available in 4 different editions. So in other words, you can have QuickBooks Enterprise Silver, QuickBooks Enterprise Gold, QuickBooks Enterprise Platinum, and Diamond. And each one of those has progressively more and better features and also more user capabilities. If you're on Desktop Enterprise, you have access through subscription, of course, to advanced accounting, advanced inventory, advanced pricing and price levels, fixed asset management, job profitability tracking, consolidated reports if you have multiple entities on it. However, that is through an Excel sort of macro process. It's not a real-time consolidation, but you can do consolidated reporting if you have multiple entities, P&L, balance sheet, things like that. And you can also have up to 40 users on QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop. Okay, so that's what you can get on the desktop platform right now. And it's very, very capable. If you want a desktop QuickBooks also that has built into it inventory capabilities, Desktop Enterprise is the way to go. And advanced inventory as well can give you things like serial, lot number, bin tracking, barcode scanning. It is pretty good. Okay, let's talk about QuickBooks Online. So even though Intuit is probably calling every single one of you, if they haven't already, and said, hey, if you're on desktop, we'd love to get you to go to QuickBooks Online. That is the way things are going. Things are moving to the cloud. Intuit for sure wants you on QuickBooks Online. Vark Solutions as a company, our operating principle is we want you to be on the right solution for you. For some people that means staying on desktop. For some of you that means moving to the cloud. Okay, we're always going to put you in the right solution, not just because Intuit makes money on it, not just because we make money on it. We want you in the right solution. Okay, but for some of you, QuickBooks Online might be a perfect solution. So let's talk about that. Just like QuickBooks Enterprise has 4 different tiers, QuickBooks Online has effectively 4 different tiers, 3 of which are really the ones that we talk to folks the most about. And that is QuickBooks Online Essentials, QuickBooks Online Plus, and QuickBooks Online Advanced. Similar to what I was saying about the desktop version, each tier up the ladder adds features, it adds functionality. You get more and more and more. One of the key differences with QuickBooks Online Plus and Advanced is the number of users. So you can see on the screen, you can get up to 3 users, up to 5 users, up to 25 users. And that's oftentimes the deciding factor on which tier to get. If you needed 8 users, you're going to have to use QuickBooks Online Advanced. If you were good for 4 or 5, maybe it's Plus. Inventory. QuickBooks Online doesn't really have what I would call natively a functional inventory system. You can add products and you can do an invoice for a product, but it doesn't have any of the what I would call the expected inventory features, like the ability of doing assemblies or nested assemblies or any of that type of stuff. It doesn't really have very robust inventory capabilities or reporting. It's what I would call basic inventory. Okay. Roles and permissions. That's another deciding factor. If you want granular controls, maybe even based on role, hey, I want somebody to get in and be able to see checks and bills, but not invoices, and I want them to be able to make deposits, but not run financials. You can get more of that type of granular control within QuickBooks Online Advanced compared to Online Essentials or Plus. And then reporting, QuickBooks Online Advanced has more in terms of reporting. It has more KPI dashboards, more AI type of things built into it. But one of the key distinctions I want you to know, especially if you're on desktop now, and you're even thinking about moving to QuickBooks Online, they are not the same. They are not, they don't look the same. They don't feel the same. The functionality is different. How you get in and move around is very, very different. So if you're thinking about moving to QuickBooks Online, which quite frankly, a lot of people are, and we do it when people say, I want to move there, expect a learning curve. Expect your team initially to be a little bit less efficient because quite frankly, there's going to be a learning curve getting used to QuickBooks Online if you're coming from a desktop environment. If you've never used QuickBooks Desktop and you're starting with QuickBooks Online, there's still a little bit of a learning curve, but you're not having to retranslate in your head how it used to work and how it now is working. So it's a lot faster to get up to speed if you're simply new to QuickBooks and you've chosen QuickBooks Online from the very beginning. Okay. If you are moving though, expect some transition time. Expect to need a little bit of training to get up to speed. All right. Now, one more thing I would like to point out about Intuit and their ecosystem is about a little over a year ago, September of 2024, Intuit came out with a brand new solution. It is called Intuit Enterprise Suite. It is the next tier above what I would call QuickBooks Online Advanced. It's the next tier above QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop. It is built for mid-market businesses. If you're lower mid-market to mid-market, this could be a perfect solution for you. A lot of people don't know about it yet because it is fairly new. But if from a look and feel perspective, it is most similar to QuickBooks Online. Okay. If you're moving from online to Intuit Enterprise Suite, the transition is going to be very, very easy for you because the look and feel is very similar. Okay. But what you get with Intuit Enterprise Suite is advanced accounting, things like revenue recognition, something that you wouldn't really need as an SMB company. Multi-entity capabilities. You could have 5 different entities, 10 different entities, 50 different entities, and have really robust features and control under one login. So in other words, instead of having to close out of a file and reopen a file, you can literally switch between entities with that one single sign-on, if you will, login. IES, as is what we call it in short, is Intuit Enterprise Suite. Also has dimensional reporting. So on desktop and QuickBooks Online, what you guys are probably mostly familiar with, you've had things like class tracking, location tracking. Think of dimensional reporting as the ability of having 30 different types of classes that you're getting, you can report on. So classes would be one dimension, but you could have 30, basically 30 different, actually, I take that back, sorry, correcting my own self. 20 additional dimensions to be able to report on different aspects of your business. Very, very functional. Real-time consolidated reporting is another big one. What's cool about Intuit Enterprise Suite when it comes to multi-entity is you can literally go into a consolidated reporting feature and see real-time that consolidated financial picture. Whereas with QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise, you have to effectively export the financials to Excel through a macro that's built into the product, and you're going to look at those financials in Excel. With IES, you're going to be able to see that real time within the platform. You don't have to export anything unless you just wanted to later. Okay. It also has automated intercompany transactions, advanced KPI dashboards. You can have up to 50 entities, 200 admins, 500 users, and unlimited reporting only users. So that is certainly a very, very capable solution, and we're getting more and more questions about that every single day. What I would say as just in conclusion related to that is if you're on QuickBooks and you're feeling like you're outgrowing QuickBooks and you're looking at, okay, what's the next step? Intuit Enterprise Suite would be the first thing I would look at. You may have heard of or looked at other things like NetSuite. Those are bigger ERP systems. They're much, much more expensive, much more complicated to use, and a lot of times are very much overkill. IES is intended to fill that gap. So if you're curious about outgrowing QuickBooks, I would absolutely look at Intuit Enterprise Suite. Perfect. And by the way, I do see the questions in the chat, and I will definitely get to those. I just wanted to get through the first sort of part of our outline before I go and address those. Okay. One thing I'll also mention about the Intuit ecosystem is that QuickBooks is intended to do your core accounting. Okay. It is not intended to solve every single problem you have in your business. Okay. It is not a business process automation tool. It is an accounting system. So the way Intuit has been in QuickBooks is built is to leverage third-party applications for different, more specific things you might need help with. So if you need an inventory solution, if you need a payroll solution, if you need an AP automation solution, a sales tax solution, a CRM, email marketing, those are add-ons or apps that integrate with QuickBooks to help you get more stuff done, still using QuickBooks as your core accounting. Okay, that is very, very helpful to understand. Now, I'm going to pause real quickly here because I do see some questions. And again, if you do have any questions, go ahead and put those in the questions panel, and I will address those. And I'm going to go ahead and address the questions that I see there first. See, David, you had asked, I am using QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise. Is there a reason I should stay on? Well, the short answer is, and I don't know if that means staying on the call today or just staying on the platform. I will say, if you're happy with QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise and it's working for you, hey, stay on it. It's a great tool. It's a great software, and we definitely recommend it for a lot of different clients. So I wouldn't move off of it unless you feel like you needed to. Okay. You might have noticed that Intuit over the last couple of years has been raising the price. So it might get to a point where you're like, it's getting more expensive than I want it to be. And so you might consider something else if that becomes an issue. But if the capabilities are there, I would stay on Desktop Enterprise. Again, if you're happy with it. let's see if there's any other ones here. With the various editions of QuickBooks Online, is there a limit on how many companies you can have? And that was a question from Sarah. Yes, with QuickBooks Online, the short answer is one company. So QuickBooks Online, it's one company per subscription. So if you had 3 companies, you would have to have 3 separate QuickBooks Online subscriptions. And the only exception would be if you upgraded into an Enterprise Suite, because that can, I mean, you could have 2 entities, 3 entities, 5 entities, 10 entities, 20 entities, et cetera, as you continue to grow and scale your enterprise. And that would be your only alternative if you wanted to have one account, one subscription, and all that stuff rolled up underneath there. Thanks, Sarah, for that question. Let's see, Robert. The problem with Enterprise Suite is there is no free trial, and the 3 people I spoke with were very junior explaining it. Okay, Robert, I would have to assume you have not talked with us about that. We have an expert team of QuickBooks folks. We have Adam on our team that can do a demo any day that you want and really explain it in as much detail as you want. He is very smart, very capable, and very knowledgeable on it. We can also show you a demo. And yes, it is true that there's not like any free trial of Intuit Enterprise Suite like there is maybe with QuickBooks Online, but we will help you kick the tires on Intuit Enterprise Suite if you would like to. We can do a demo. We can spend 90 minutes, an hour, a couple hours if you wanted to, showing and working through those features. All right, thanks, Robert. Hope that was helpful. But again, I know that sometimes when you call Intuit, you don't always get the best answers, the best support, the best whatevers. Please rely on us for that, because that's what we are good at, and that's what Intuit literally relies on us to help you with. Miriam, I'm going to put your question on hold, and I apologize for saying that only because it doesn't apply quite as much to the content we're going to talk about today. But I'll have somebody on my team follow up with you on the transition from Expensify to QuickBooks Online. All right. All right. Perfect. All right. So let's keep going. By the way, those are great questions. Really appreciate that. So now let's talk about, let's say you're on QuickBooks Desktop and you're thinking about moving to QuickBooks Online. What are some things you ought to be thinking about, considering as well? And this could also apply to if you're thinking about moving into an Enterprise Suite as well. But first off, feature parity with QuickBooks Online can be a blocker. Okay. In other words, QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise has a lot of really cool features that aren't all in QuickBooks Online. So it's not just a no-brainer, I want to move to the cloud, let me go ahead and switch, because you might not have certain features there that you absolutely need. That's the kind of question and conversation we would like to have with you, because if you're like, hey, I'm thinking about moving to the cloud, I need these features, we can tell you if they're there. We can tell you if they're the same. We can also tell you if they're maybe not as good or if they're even better in some cases. Okay. But don't just assume that everything you have in desktop is going to be where you're going. Number 2, corrupt files can keep you from migrating to online, at least keep you from doing it very easily or inexpensively. Okay. We migrate people all the time from QuickBooks Desktop to online, and usually we get the call when somebody's tried it on their own and it hasn't worked. Corrupt files is a very common reason why people can't just hit a button and migrate. Good news is there is some features and utilities within QuickBooks Desktop to do a file repair. You got to be very careful when using it, but file repairs can extend the life of Desktop Enterprise. Okay. Big slow files. If you're in desktop and it's working more and more slowly, that's not uncommon. The bigger your file gets, the slower it tends to get. You can do audit trail removal. You can do internal backups, and that will help the file be faster and more nimble. But it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on it. Eventually, it's going to get slow again, and you kind of got to repeat the process. My recommendation, don't ever use the condensed feature within QuickBooks. Okay, there's literally a utility called condensed. We get calls when people have used that feature and it is messed up more. So we don't recommend it as a general rule. If you wanted to even try it, I would do a backup, try it. If you don't like the results, immediately restore your backup. Okay. But we don't recommend the condensed feature for a lot of different reasons. It tends to mess some things up, especially if you have things like inventory, payroll, some other a little bit more moving parts that are a little bit more complicated. Last but not least, on this slide, if you're maybe before you consider migrating, I would ask the question, are you using the software to its fullest already? Like, are you getting every juice out of the squeeze, or every squeeze out of the juice, however you say that, right now? If you're on QuickBooks Enterprise Silver, it might be worth thinking about gold or platinum or diamond before moving off the platform completely. Okay. Because there may be features they're literally one upgrade away from you having them. And that is a lot less expensive than doing a migration. Okay. So that's what I would personally recommend. Now, the last slide here that I'm going to talk about this topic is these are things that you want to be asking yourself before you consider ever doing a move. First off, is it time to move? You may be forced to from some outside factor. Get it. Is the pain great enough for you to move? Okay. I wouldn't just voluntarily move if I didn't have a reason to. Okay. So you need to ask the question, is it time to move? Is the pain of staying getting too much? That's the first question. The second is there a clear benefit or measurable improvement you can expect? Like if you migrated to QuickBooks Online from desktop, what is the benefit to you? Is it the fact that it's in the cloud and you have greater, quicker access to it? That's a benefit. Is there some integration that you're trying to do that won't work with QuickBooks Desktop and it'll only work with QuickBooks Online? Again, that's a benefit, but you need to clearly identify what those benefits are before you decide to do it. Okay, that's my recommendation. The third, do you understand the hard costs and the other costs? The hard cost would be, okay, there's a subscription licensing fee, there may be a migration cost, but what are the other costs? And I alluded to them before, but like there is a cost in terms of training or downtime when you do a migration. Your team is going to be a little bit slower initially until they get up to speed. And that's a legitimate cost that you need to be weighing. It's not a big one, okay, but it is something to factor in. And then the fourth one, which I think is quite frankly the most important, is that new system may be more capable, but it also might be more complicated to use. So just don't assume that it's going to be an easy migration and everything's going to be easy to pick up or configure or customize. It might be a little bit more work. And so those are questions that you would want to ask. Now, when people call us and they ask about helping them migrate from something to something, one of the things that I've actually told my team to ask is who's going to be the most upset if this migration goes sideways? Okay. Because a lot of times it's not the owner that's pushing this, or it might be, but sometimes the owner is not in the room, but they're the ones that would be the most upset if things went sideways. If they're not involved in the process, the discussions, the conversations about the requirements, they should be in the room because we want to make sure that everybody's aware of the process and the considerations and what are the pros and what are the cons. It's just a best practice that we put in place, and we think it's a smart move for you as well. All right. So I'm going to end with questions. We're at the 30-minute mark. And so if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the questions panel. If you're interested in scheduling a consultation with our team, I put the QR code there that you can scan. I'm going to leave that there for another couple seconds. You can always email us at team@varksolutions.com, team@varksolutions.com. I'm also going to put the phone number up here in a second. But let me also put one more poll up here. Let's see, let me close that poll. I'm going to put one more poll on the screen and see if you can give me some sort of like post session feedback here. All right. I've just launched the last poll for this session, and that is, how can we help you? Can we help you get more out of QuickBooks? Can we help you learn more about Intuit Enterprise Suite? Would you like to talk about a migration that you're maybe thinking about? Just make sure that you're fully aware of what you're getting yourself into. Maybe help you integrate with something else, whether it's an Expensify or some other inventory system. Or if you're good, and that's totally fine too, let us know that. I'll just let that kind of show out in the background while you are taking a look at that. Let me just pull up the other screen here too while we're doing it. And again, with the phone numbers on the screen, if you have any questions after the call today, call us 281-412-6914. Feel free to schedule a free consultation with us. We'd love to talk with you about it. If you've called into it and haven't gotten the best support, please do call us. We are very, very helpful. We're very patient. We will take time to listen to you and help you. Okay. And you can also email us at that team@varksolutions.com. I'm going to go through real quickly on the questions and chat panel to see if there's anything I haven't seen there. And then I'll see if I can answer any of those before we leave today. Okay. Miriam, you asked a question. If we have a technical issue with QuickBooks Online, can we open a ticket to be resolved? The short answer is yes. But again, we recommend doing that through VARK. Intuit, it's a big company. Support isn't always the most, it's not what they're known for doing well. Okay. So you can't really open a support ticket by any sort of online means with us. But if you call us or email us and you've got an issue with QuickBooks Online, we will help you. We will, whether it's training, whether it's troubleshooting, we can help you. Okay. Perfect. Awesome, Robert. And I saw your note about NetSuite, and I'll talk to you more about that as well. Love to talk with you more about that. Perfect. Okay. Any other questions? I'm just going to see if there's any other questions in the panel here. And I know we do have a couple of them there. So let me just read through these real quick and see if there's anything I can answer live. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so one of the questions from Diane, and I'm just going to answer this live. Diane, I hope you're still here. It says, Intuit Enterprise Suite is not the choice for manufacturing inventory and BOMs, that QuickBooks Enterprise Solution is the better choice. Is that correct? Great question. I'm going to answer it this way. QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop has inventory, assemblies, and BOMs built in, okay? And the advanced inventory feature has just some additional kind of features and functionality there. So natively within QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise, it is very good for what I would call basic manufacturing. Maybe not the most complicated inventory scenarios in the world, but it does have at least functional assemblies in it. So we recommend that. If somebody said, hey, I'm on QuickBooks Desktop, but I need a more robust inventory functionality, we are partners with Fishbowl and several others, but we highly recommend Fishbowl as a very robust manufacturing intense inventory solution that worked with both Desktop Enterprise as well as QuickBooks Online. Okay, so we recommend Fishbowl, and if you want to see more about that or get a demo of that, we can also set that up for you. Intuit Enterprise Suite. Intuit Enterprise Suite at this point, as of today, still hasn't built into it natively the inventory assemblies and the manufacturing and the BOMs. So it is not the most natural fit for a manufacturing company natively, okay? Not built into it. But because Fishbowl, because Sin7, because a few other inventory solutions are out there that do handle that incredibly well, we would recommend if you're multi-entity and you want all the other IES capabilities and the inventory is the only thing kind of holding you back, talk to us about IES and potentially a third-party solution like Fishbowl to bolt onto it to handle that manufacturing process. That would be the answer that I would give you, Diana. I hope that helps you. Taylor, you asked the question, how does the speed of IES, Intuit Enterprise Suite, compare to QuickBooks Desktop? QuickBooks Desktop is painfully slow, but achieves all the basic tasks we have, but it was unfortunately set up incorrectly when we first started. All right, great question. Interestingly enough, Taylor, your experience with QuickBooks Desktop in terms of speed is not always the case. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that it is your scenario, but for a lot of folks, QuickBooks Desktop is faster than QuickBooks Online in terms of speed to open and get around and move around. Okay, not in all cases, but in some. The larger your desktop file gets, the slower it will get. That is for sure. Running a report in QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop, if you've got a very, very large file, can take some time. Certain screens can take longer to load. And yes, if it's not set up properly, that obviously doesn't help. Intuit Enterprise Suite, in comparison, is very quick. It is cloud-based, and it's only reading into memory, so to speak, the stuff that it has to. Whereas desktop, it's kind of reading in the entire file in many cases. So I would say that Intuit Enterprise Suite and QuickBooks Online, for that matter, can be faster than desktop, especially when you're comparing big file in the desktop scenario. Taylor, I hope that helps you. Diane, you had one more question. Again, I love these questions. Intuit told me in 2024 that enterprise desktop platform was available in the cloud. Is that true? Great question, Diane. Again, I hope you're still here. I'm going to answer that question very, very clearly for you. QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise is a on-prem software. It is a desktop software that has to get installed onto a computer or server. Now, having said that, you can do a little bit of what is called a hybrid. You can do what is more of a hybrid solution where there is a cloud hosting of that desktop software. That's what Intuit meant when they said it was available in the cloud. Okay, not natively, but hosted in a cloud server. Now, again, I'm going to give you my opinion, and it's a strong opinion, but just take it for what it's worth. It is an opinion. Intuit has a white labeled hosting cloud provider called RightWorks. It used to be called Right Networks. Okay, it's called RightWorks now. It is the de facto cloud hosting provider if you go through Intuit directly. Okay, we have a few clients that are on QuickBooks Enterprise Desktop on RightWorks that are very, very happy. I say a few because it is oftentimes a frustration point because the cloud hosting provider called RightWorks doesn't allow us as a company to advocate for you. They won't talk to us. They will only talk to you as an owner or a client. Okay. Also, because it's a shared hosted environment, they put limitations on some of the things that you can put on that cloud hosted environment, which means it might not have the ability to do certain things in the cloud that you otherwise would be able to do on your own server that's in your office, okay, or on your internal network, okay? So we personally don't recommend RightWorks because of those restrictions and because of the fact that we can't as effectively support you in that cloud environment. Instead, we have two other providers that we do work with to host your desktop software in the cloud. One is called Go to My ERP, okay, literally go to my ERP. The other is called Sage Next. Don't be confused by the word Sage. They are still desktop QuickBooks hosting providers. Go to My ERP, they're kind of like the gold standard. They have the highest level of support, premium services, managed hosting, all of those kind of fun things. Sage Next is the other one that we use all the time. It's a little bit more of a more affordable model, not quite as secure and capable as Go to My ERP, but we highly recommend them both, especially in comparison to the other one I mentioned before. So, Diane, I hope that helps you again. More than happy to answer any other questions about that. And also just give you our honest recommendations because that's what we're always going to do for you. All right. And so there was another question behind the scenes that was asking about third-party solutions. And yes, if you're wanting to get more out of QuickBooks, but you've got this other solution that you have and you want to talk, figure out how to get it integrated, we can do that as well. If you're looking for an inventory solution, if you're looking for a payroll solution, if you're looking for a CRM that bidirectionally integrates with QuickBooks, we have recommendations for that. So if you're wanting to leverage some other solution to get more out of your QuickBooks, definitely call us, definitely email us, and we'd be happy to help. Taylor, you asked another question, which was, can you use Azure? Okay. And I assume what you're meaning is for the cloud hosting. The short answer is yes. Okay. And by the way, that's, Amazon, AWS, Azure, there's some of those platforms that you can literally go sign up for yourself and get set up on. I would say my recommendation, Taylor, would be if you have an IT staff on site that knows how to set up and configure those cloud environments, it's not a bad choice. Okay. If you have an IT managed service providing company that you're working with, a lot of times they will have their own cloud services and they can host your desktop QuickBooks as well. Again, I would never discourage you from taking a look at that. They may have very, very good services. But if you're looking for the one-click sort of install, where these people are experts at hosting QuickBooks, then I would go with GoToMyERP and Sage Next. It's that one click. They've already done the configuration literally 1,000 times. So if the only reason you're trying to move to a cloud server at all is because you want your QuickBooks there, I would take a look at the ones that we recommend before going off and trying to configure your own Azure environment or AWS cloud or any of that kind of stuff. Now, if you've already got those cloud hosted environments, great. This could be something that you could figure out how to add to that. We are not Azure experts. We are not AWS experts. We're not trying to be, but we do know IT managed service providers that can do that stuff if you're looking for a recommendation.
There is a Solution for That is produced by VARC Solutions. This episode was produced by Ashley White and Aaron Riley. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Watch the video version on youtube.com/There's a Solution for That. Or visit varcsolutions.com/podcast, where you'll find our entire podcast archive, as well as show notes, links to solution providers, and complete transcripts of every episode. If you love the podcast, please leave a review with your comments.